what we do very much, we focus on is investing cross-border, right? So that's our specialty. Is there's lots of firms that operate in the home market, but when they try to offer another market to their customers, that's when they come to us, because that itself requires a lot of complexity. You have different regulations, different banking systems, different, even the way things are quoted, the way news is delivered, languages that you have to convert. I mean, there's so much that you have to do to deliver the world to this account that you now think of as, hey, it's easy, it's right here on my phone. Well, yeah, it's right there on your phone, but the analogy I always like to use is so is sending a rocket to space. You know, it sits here, and then it's in space, and no one thinks about the complexity of what it really takes to make that happen. That's the type of thing we focus on.
Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the Exponential Show. Today we are here at True Digital Park with Tony Petrilli, the chairman and CEO of ViewTrade. Tony, welcome to Bangkok and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
The pleasure is all mine. Tony, let's get straight to it. The first question that we ask all our guests is your superhero origin story. So,
my superhero.
So you've spent pretty much your entire career in the world of finance, and you've gone through a lot of upheavals that we were talking about off camera. But if I were to put you on the spot and ask you about some of the key milestones that would define your journey so far, if I may.
Well, it's a good story. It started back in 1976 when I first became interested in the stock market. And with my father, he was doing some investing. And he used to take me to a brokerage firm. In those days, you literally had to go to the broker and to their office and the ticker tape. There were no computers, there were no phones, nothing like that. I just found finance fascinating, investing fascinating. It happens in real time, and it reflects what's going on in the world at any point in time is reflected in that market.
I'm sure.
So I was kind of lucky in the sense that I kind of fell in love with the whole world of investing and financing very young, and I just pursued that basically for the next, whatever that's been, 50 years.
It's been quite a journey. But are there any key milestones that come to mind when you think about that journey so far?
In terms of my personal, or in terms of the industry?
Both perhaps, but the personal in context of the industry, if I may.
I mean, milestones in the industry, I mean, they're the things that you would expect. I mean, the advent of the personal computer really changed everything. I mean, that was the beginning of democratization of investing, in the sense of allowing individuals to have access to the information that up till then you had to go to the broker's office to get, or you had to call someone to get, because back then you literally, when I started, you actually waited for the newspaper.
Wow.
To see what the stock prices were from yesterday. Right. And the Sunday paper is when you saw a little bit of research and discussion taking place. So the advent of the personal computer was the beginning of all that. That was in 1982. It was also the year I graduated from college, and it was an interesting event for me, because here I was. I just came out of school. I studied some computer science back then, Fortran, COBOL. These are ancient languages. And I went to work at what is now Accenture. But before it was Arthur Andersen Consulting, and the partner, I walked in the door, he said, "Hey, you just graduated from college. I see you have a little computer background. What is this thing, this desktop? And why don't you figure out how we use it?" And that was my introduction to that, and we started actually using it. Today, you just don't even think about it, but that was a big milestone. And then the next big milestone from there was the advent of the internet, where you didn't have to have software. Because when you first got that computer, it was on software. There was no real internet. Now the internet started delivering the information to that, and things just continue on to where we are today. So it's really been a technology journey. If you really think about it, for me, it's that's every milestone, every event that took place was, how do I adopt this new technology and use it in the world of investing.
Fascinating. Yeah, so that's a good framework to put it in. It's not that finance has evolved,
but
technology. It's the technology.
Yes.
Interesting. And one key thing that you brought up, and this is something that not just you, but just ViewTrade in general communicates very well, is the fact that access to information and access to investing is has evolved, as you mentioned, but also continues to evolve now, and perhaps faster than ever, if I may say so. So
and the quantity of information that you now have to digest is incrementally, massively increased over the time. So thank God we have technology, because today you couldn't do what we do today in any analog world.
I can imagine.
It has to be a digital world.
I can imagine. Now, within that context, do you see some of perhaps the most recent changes that you want to highlight, or perhaps even some things that you still want to see changed?
Change continues even to this day. The tokenization, the use of stable coins, the movement of money. What we do very much, we focus on is investing cross-border, right? So that's our specialty. There's lots of firms that operate in the home market, but when they try to offer another market to their customers, that's when they come to us, because that itself requires a lot of complexity. You have different regulations, different banking systems, different, even the way things are quoted, the way news is delivered, languages that you have to convert. I mean, there's so much that you have to do to deliver the world to this account that you now think of as, hey, it's easy, it's right here on my phone. Well, it's right there on your phone, but the analogy I always like to use is sending a rocket to space. It sits here, and then it's in space, and no one thinks about the complexity of what it really takes to make that happen. That's the type of thing we focus on. So that's continuing to evolve with AI and, as I said, tokenization and stable coins. And I mean, there's so many things that are still coming, and regulations that have to be brought to the table in order to make all of this work.
I'm sure. Yeah,
it's never ended.
I mean,
in all the years I've been doing it, every year there's something else, and it's great. That's what makes this industry so exciting for me. I mean,
makes sense, and it kind of keeps you on your toes even today, right? So you mentioned that you've been doing this for quite some time, but there's always something new that keeps you excited, keeps you
always. Innovation is in this business. But every business innovates. You have to continue to innovate, but this business, because the end customer is so much more demanding, is just used to this world of everything instantaneous, everything available. You have to meet your client requirements. That's what But making that happen is the challenge. We take what's hard. This is our business model. The business model I have. We take what's very hard and we make it very easy for you, the customer. That's what we try to do, and we deal with all the spaghetti and all the issues that you have to put together to string together to make these things happen.
And that's I think a great way of segueing into my next topic, which was the fact that you're not only doing it really well, and that has been proven by some of the recognition that you got just this year. So you got recognized by Wealth in Finance, Wealth Briefing Asia as one of the leading voices in finance, fintech. So can you talk about what were the things that ViewTrade did well and you did well as a leader to sort of make that reality?
I think exactly what I've shared. I mean, look, the real recognition comes from the end customer, who then is happy with the client, the broker dealer or the advisor they're working with, which is our direct customer. I'll give an example here in Thailand. I mean, Thailand it's not in a very efficient, the way the infrastructure was set up and the way the regulations were set up in order to do cross-border investing. People did it, don't get me wrong, but it was not in the most efficient possible way. If you don't have efficiency, you have high costs, which is exactly what the end customer doesn't want, right? So when we came here, we started from the premise, let's work with the industry and let's work with the regulators and let's work with in the case of US markets, as an example, which is the primary foreign market that people are interested in, is how do we make the access to that US market in the most efficient way? Well, that required discussion with the Internal Revenue Service. We had to set up the ability to do the KYC in the proper way for the Thai investors, for us as a broker dealer, to give them that cross-border access. And the industry was very, very receptive. My colleagues here who cover the region, we went to the regulator and to the industry and said, listen, what's stopping you from having a very large foreign business? They told us what those things were, and we spent the first year not making a nickel.
Wow.
Simply using at our expense, working through those roadblocks, those issues that have to be addressed, working with the U.S. government, U.S. IRS, the regulators here, and how to make this, and tech providers here as well, which we work with, what I call industry service providers, to try to bring this all together and integrate so that it becomes a much more efficient, cost-effective way of delivering the world of investing to the individual Thai investor.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. And
I think that's why I got the recognition, but
no,
to us, it's just what we do.
But
in every market we open up.
Doing it is one thing, but doing it well is a whole different game, right?
We know how to do it very well. It's a specialty, because very few people do the cross-border part of the business as a business by itself.
I see.
Which is, so we have what I like to say is a lot of intellectual capital.
Right.
We've done this in, what are we in now, 30 plus countries. In terms of the individual investors. So we have a lot of experience doing this. So we get to do it 30 times. For our client, this is the first time they're doing it. And maybe they only do it once. So we bring all this experience in how to get these things done rather quickly.
It's like I said, it's the wealth of experience. It makes, like, to steal your own words, is makes all the complexity look easy. So it's
we have to. We have to. We owe it to the end customer, to the end investor, to make it 100%. Easy.
Now, to stick to that complexity for a brief moment again, so you mentioned on one end there's the complexity of different stakeholders. So you've mentioned regulators, you've mentioned infrastructure providers. There's obviously the end consumer that needs to get. And all of these across borders, right? So like you mentioned, there's different almost rule books in different places that you're playing in. So that's one end of the spectrum, which I believe as an outsider looking into the industry is very slow moving. At the other end of the spectrum is, we talked about technology that's moving faster than ever. So how do you balance both of these worlds in
the regulatory world and
which is like they almost seem to be moving at different
speeds.
So
I look at regulations as the spirit of the rules. That's what's most important. If you just read the rule, it may not cover it, right? But the spirit of the rule is there, right? The spirit of the rule is, investor protection, AML, making sure you're dealing with the correct counterparties. Right. So when we enter a country, we approach it from, look, the regulation may not be clear. It doesn't mean you take advantage of that, because at the end of the day, we have to operate globally, right? And so what are the best standards around the world? And we embed that in our technology and in our processes at the onset, whether or not the regulation even is caught up or not.
I see.
Right? And so one of the things we do is with my regulatory team is I say, okay, find the hardest country, the country where the strictest rules, most clearly spelled out, right? And let's then bring that standard to the table. And what we find, if you do that, you're usually on the right place. And quite frankly, the regulators for us really appreciate it. I mean, we have very close relationship with regulators around the world, because they see us as a firm that when we come to that market, we're bringing what we think, at least what we've experienced as best practices. Right. They can be localized and changed and modified. But the regulator appreciates that, because a lot of other firms will go to a market that has low regulation to take advantage of the fact that there's low regulation, right? We don't do that. We want to operate at the best standards, that if a regulator from any of our other countries, remember, we're in the cross-border business, right? So let's say the U.S. is it's not always the case, believe it or not. There's other markets that are more strict than the U.S. But let's assume the U.S. is the strictest market. The last thing I want is for my U.S. regulator, because I'm doing business in the United States, to say, hey, what are you doing over here in Thailand that if you were a U.S. broker, you wouldn't be allowed to do that, right? And I'm saying, well, if I'm not allowed to do it as a U.S. firm in the U.S., then I shouldn't want to do it that way in Thai or any other market that I'm in. And that's worked very well for us. It's given us a very strong reputation with the regulators. I can imagine. They appreciate it when we come to the market. Yeah, we're not an arbitrager of regulation. We're an enhancer of regulation. And then we work with them, quite frankly, in writing the rules and helping put those things in place. Think of us as a solution provider, not as a brokerage firm. I hate that term, brokerage firm. Okay, we are a solutioning firm, and we'll solution with all the stakeholders their part of the process, and then we put it all together into what we call unifying technology that everyone takes advantage of and can use.
Yeah, Now that you say it, sounds so obvious that you go to the one
hard.
that
It's hard to do, and most people aren't set up to do it that way. See, we're sort of lucky in the sense that we don't have outside interests in terms of like PE or we own our own firm. It's employee owned for the most part, right? And so we have the luxury of focusing on our client,
right?
And saying how do we make sure, and the client meaning the whole ecosystem that client has to operate in,
right?
We're fortunate in that, so I don't have outside pressures that compete or in competition to what's best, what's the best thing we can do for the industry, and become part of the industry, and for the end customers in that industry. They clearly are the ones that have to be satisfied for us to even do anything.
Right. Yeah. And one thing I noticed a trend in all your answers is that it all just comes back down to the end customer, and I get a sense that it's something that it trickles down to the rest of the organization as well. It's just always coming back to what's best for the end customer.
What's best for the end customer and what's best for the industry in the country we're in. We want the industry to thrive. We're not a firm that comes in and tries to take the business away to a foreign market, right? We try to when we offer cross-border business, we offer it to the local brokerage firms, the local advisors, and they get the benefit of growing the industry here, employing here, keeping the employment here, keeping the profits here. I mean, we're different in that sense. I mean, there's firms I won't name, but well-known firms that you open your accounts where they want you to open their account outside of Thailand.
Yes, I've encountered a couple.
You know what I'm talking about? I say, why are you doing this? I mean, that's for the benefit of the broker. That's not for the benefit of the financial industry in Thailand, nor is it in the best interest of the investor in Thailand to operate that way. So we think of what's in the best interest of the market we're entering and all the constituents that are part of that market. We adapt to them to make sure they thrive. And we benefit, obviously, because we're doing that, not trying to compete against the local industry providers in that context.
Sounds like a very sort of more sustainable approach, if I may call it that.
It's very sustainable. We become part of the. I mean, one of the things we become part of the financial service industry in the countries we operate in, and we're a member of that. That's how I look at it. We're not a U.S. firm. We're not. If I'm in Thailand, we're here to be a member of the Thailand financial service community and make sure Thailand wins and the customers here win. That's our focus. That's the way we operate.
It's a great perspective to have, especially in the world of finance where the stakes are very high, literally.
Stakes are high, and the motivations of a lot of foreign brokers are not good sometimes for the benefit of the local financial service community. They try to take the business away. I try to keep it here in the country.
Good way to frame things.
Yeah.
Now, if I may sort of change the direction a little bit, go back to the two most important words in the English alphabet these days, AI.
AI.
So
what happened to human intelligence?
No idea. I've lost mine like 5 years ago. But we were talking off camera about how it has a cascading effect across the value chain that you just talked about.
Yeah.
So if you could maybe tell us about what impacts you've seen on the financial world, of where the technology currently stands, but also where it's headed. Because in your world, I understand you have to plan for a longer term horizon compared to...
I do 3 to 5 year planning. It literally have to, because it could take a couple of years from idea to delivery because of all the details that have to be worked out to do it. But AI to me is a multi-dimensional thing, and everyone will look at it from their perspective. I look at it across all those dimensions. Where the biggest initial impact is, and now is well, there's two. One is improving the operations of financial services. The ability to do AML, to be able to open an account, the ability to configure the technology through some sort of automation. That speeds up the time to market. It also, quite frankly, catches problems and mistakes or things that need to be fixed rather quickly. So I think of that as a productivity aspect of AI, very, very important. The other is the ability to gather information extremely quickly and deliver it to the point that someone's trying to do. That's touching more and more the end customer as well. So And then there's everything in between, from writing contracts to proofreading contracts to doing things like that. So compliance, AI is a big part of compliance. Compliance tends to be, when you do it in an analog fashion, is very discrete. I'm looking at this piece, I'm looking at this piece, I'm looking at this piece. The reality is if you look at it and connect it all, and you look at patterns, you can see much more insight in terms of what's going on with a particular customer or a particular activity or a particular trading activity. So it greatly improves the compliance part of things. And a lot of people may not even realize that, but you can use it that way. So it's all those dimensions that we work on. But the information from the end customer perspective, the biggest upside will be the ability to get information quickly, right? So I'll give you an example. How many stocks do you know around the world?
Oh, well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask this question, but just only tech stocks is the answer to your question.
Okay, only tech, and in that maybe 80 stocks. I mean, the typical person knows 80, maybe 80, that's a lot, correct. 10 maybe, right? But I'm talking worldwide, not just the local market. Well, with AI, you have access to tens of thousands of stocks. If you want to know something, you don't even know anything about what is going on in the tech industry in, you pick the country, Germany. Well, I can use AI to get that information really quick and then be able to get the information I need to make an investment decision extremely quickly. So I look at it as an opportunity, and I use the term periodically, to do investment tourism, right? What's going on in Switzerland? And if I ask the right prompts and the right questions, I can get a lot of information about what's going on in Switzerland. Right now, today you wouldn't even know what to do, right?
Absolutely.
Who knows what you'll find? So you're going to do discovery, stock discovery, investment opportunity discovery is going to be very quick, much more global, and there's no limitation now. You don't need to know anything. You don't even need to speak the language, and you can get that information. So I think the world of end investors becomes much more exciting, and they can literally do, as they say, investment tourism. I'm interested, let me get a little bit in Switzerland, let me get a little bit in Germany, let me get a little bit in India, let me get a little bit. You pick where you want to pick, and you can create a much more diversified, in my opinion, a much more diversified and sustainable portfolio rather than speculate on the same stocks over and over again. It's going to change everything in that context. That's as an example.
I'm sure. I have a quick follow-up on that. So if just putting myself in the shoes of an investment tourist, I think for somebody as an end consumer, as an individual investor, I think we are kind of bordering towards a world where there's too much information, if there is such a thing.
Well, that's where AI would distill that. I agree with you. That's my point. So AI is going to distill that. You don't have to spend hours and hours and hours going through, doing searches on Google, reading reports. You can get to the point rather quickly. I mean, I use it today. I'm surprised how quickly I can gather information that in 1 minute I know something that would have taken me 3 or 4 hours. And I've been doing this a long time. To get, if not days, to get to the information. I can get that in almost instantaneous. And I think, I've been doing this a long time, so I know a lot about certain things. I'm surprised at what AI gives me. I go, wow, I didn't realize that. Holy smokes, look at. So I'm learning. AI is teaching me, right, more and more about things that I may have missed or not thought about, or relationships that I wasn't thinking about.
I see.
It's a very powerful tool in that context. That's the best use of AI, in my opinion, is the ability to distill huge quantities of information into something that I can actually get to and read in 1 minute, and I got the answer.
I can imagine. So if I look at a spectrum, so you mentioned obviously just finding and distilling information, then there's maybe giving advice, and then there's the decision making. So where on that spectrum does AI currently sit, in your opinion? So where is that line between AI recommendation and human judgment?
Well, the approach I take, and it's part of our AI policy that we have at our firm, is at the end of the day, the human owns the decision. AI may give you a recommendation, but it cannot, and it can actually, if you allow it, it can go forward and implement that decision for you. But the result of whatever you're doing, you can't say, hey, AI told me to do that. The human has to. That includes, for instance, when we use AI to assist our developers in doing coding, compliance. The compliance officer can't say to me, hey, AI did approve that account, and it turned out to be the wrong. The human always owns the end decision, and so there has to be an interaction between AI and the person. You can't just set it and forget it. You set it, see its results. 9 times out of 10, it's exactly what you want. But in essence, you're approving every one of those, all 10 of 10 decisions that AI does, either by doing nothing, because you just let AI do it, but you got to be aware of what AI did and why it did it and how it's doing it. So the human is still accountable, because at the end of the day, to be frank, human intelligence is still the best. I mean, AI gives you a lot, it could do a lot, but it still can't think the way, ultimately, is this the right thing for me, given my circumstances, my emotional state, my view of the world.
Tony, we are here in Bangkok today, in Thailand. You've talked about already the work that you've done in Thailand with the regulators, doing KYC and qualified intermediaries. So just zooming out a little bit and talking about the importance of not just Thailand, but the Asia Pacific, APAC region for ViewTrade's future and the cross-border future that you are building towards. Can you give us a strategic overview of why it is such an important market for you? You already have a local type footprint, you have a footprint in Singapore, in India. So just talk to us about the Asia context of the global markets that you are trying to facilitate.
It's probably the fastest growing, to be frank, in terms of cross-border investing. If you look, Federal Reserve puts out statistics every month. I think the last numbers I saw was September of 2005, I remember, but over 5 trillion of U.S. stocks are owned by
5 trillion.
5 trillion. People don't realize how much, right? Over 5 trillion of U.S. stocks are held by people in the Asia region.
Wow,
it's huge. Okay, if I look overall, in each of the markets we operate, including Europe and others, over 32% of the U.S. stock market is held by foreigners, by non-U.S. people.
32%.
People don't realize this. Yes,
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's and growing faster, right? If you look at the percentage of total U.S. securities, and I'm talking fixed income, corporates, equities, the equity component is over 50% now. The shift is mind-blowing, even going back only 10 years. Okay, so in the last 10 years, U.S. stocks held by non-U.S. residents has gone up, I believe, 5-fold. 500% in the last almost 100% a year. Why? Because firms like us and others are offering, giving firms around the world the ability to invest worldwide, including the U.S. And the U.S. always tends to be the market that's the largest foreign market for people. We make it very easy through fractionalization, no limits, et cetera, all the things that, and people are responding to that. They know, I mean, you use an Apple, you know Microsoft, we use these tools, you want to invest in these companies. In the past it was very hard, very inefficient, difficult. You had to open your account in the States, which you don't want to do as a non-US resident. Please keep your account in your home country. That's what we help our broker-dealer clients do with our technology. They can keep the account here, which is where you want it. You don't want it in the States. But we give them that access in a very cost-effective way. Very easy, very hard on our side, but very easy for the end investor. And it's gone up 500% in the last 10 years. So, and if I look at Asia versus Europe, Asia's growing at a much more rapid pace. I believe Europe is growing probably 2.5 times versus, so it's almost double the rate of growth from Asia going into the U.S. market and other markets than even from Europe. It's a younger population. In my view, they're much more interested in what's going on around the world, much more aware, much more about growing wealth, not just preserving wealth. Europe tends to be a lot of wealth preservation. Asia's like, let me make more money, right? So it's exciting. It's the area we focused on really for the last, I'd say, 15 years now, very much in Asia, because we saw these trends. It was less than $1 trillion, 10 years ago, so it's anyway. I hope I answered the question.
And surprised me at the same time.
It's amazing. You can get these statistics from the Federal Reserve. The U.S. government likes to keep track of dollars, regardless of what form they're in, including stocks and investments. So if the stats are right, then the numbers I gave you is what they show.
That's definitely food for thought. Now, within that whole Asia freight train that is sort of growing that fast. Where does Thailand lie on that map in terms of the importance for you as a company and just the regional, because you now have a footprint here, so obviously that you saw something here that
yeah, I mean, look, we're like any other company. We have finite resources and we have to pick our spots, right? So in 2024, 25, really in 25, we finally got to the point where let's focus on what's going on here in Thailand. And when we came, we saw that the community here, the financial service community, the local firms here, right, were in fact struggling quite a bit with both technology to do cross-border business, as well as access to these markets in a cost-effective way. So again, it was the industry that really brought us here. We sat down with them, ASCO, and said, look, tell us about your issues. We heard what they had to say, and we realized that we could solve most of those issues for them. And so we're here now because the industry has given us the opportunity to be part of the financial service community here and serve these markets. Again, as you noted, my theme, me as a person and as a company, I don't focus on brokerage and how do I make money and how do I extract commissions.
Right.
I don't even care, okay? Because if I do these other things right, if I help the Thai investor and the Thai brokers and advisors succeed, yes, I'll make money doing that. But that's my motivation, is to help that part, is to do that part first and to do it locally, which is why we don't enter a country without creating a presence in that country, employing people in that country, and become part of the culture and the community that's here. So, but anyway, the opportunity was because no one else did it. To be honest, I mean, my competitors could have done it. They didn't.
Right. Somebody had to do it.
and they come, for whatever reason, and it's like, okay, they're not doing it because it's hard.
Yes.
And we're saying that's exactly our business model.
Right.
Go where it's hard.
Right.
And turn it into something easy. That's what we do for a living, not go where it's easy so I can make as much money as I can. We've invested our own money to do this over the last year and a half. Right. Happy to do it, because it was interesting. When I was in my 20s, I worked at Morgan Stanley. Back then, it had just gone public, right? So it was still a partnership, right? And some of the original, what I call titans of Wall Street, were still there, and I worked with them. And one of them, I won't mention who, but I learned from these guys, right? And he said to me, Tony, long-term greedy. I go, what do you mean, long-term greedy? He says, the relationship with your client will pay you for the rest of your life. A transaction is just one event. Right. And so that framed my whole view, going back to your very first question, on how to look at the world. Build relationships that last decades. And how do you do that? You make sure it's good for everybody, not greedy for myself, right, in that context. And that's paid off, and that's the approach we've taken here.
I think that's something that we can just, not just me personally, but our audience can sort of take away, even if they're not in the finance world. It's something that applies across all industries, all levels of the industry, irrespective of whether they're a founder or an executive in a company.
Think about the relationship. That's what that will pay you for a lifetime. A trade will pay for that second. So don't try to just forget trades, forget transactions. Don't be transactional, be relationship oriented. That's how I've been operating. How old was I when I had that? I think I was 27. So now I'm 66.
I see.
So that whole time frame, I've thought about that. I still can see that conversation. Like it happened yesterday. Wow. It was such a big impact on me to see this very famous titan. Right. And this is what he said. Oh, wow, I learned a lot. I was lucky. I was lucky because in my 20s I got to work with some of the the titans of Wall Street, Morgan Stanley, Salomon Brothers. It was something. Wow. And these guys were something. I tell you, they were something.
I mean, there's a reason they're still around. Right?
Well, the firms are still around. And I hope the culture is still there. But I think sometimes Wall Street has moved to be more transactional than relationship oriented, and I'm call me old-fashioned. Relationships is where it counts.
No, I mean, I'm sure, and I think, again, I'm sort of going off topic here, but that is something that in an AI world is going to be even more important, because there's going to be so much reliance on just artificial intelligence, just the human relationships are what's going to differentiate a leader, an organization from...
AI should reflect the leaders, it should reflect the personality and the culture and the values of the people using AI. It should not be allowed to become its own thing, right? That's how, if it's done right, it reflects you. If you want to have your digital advisor, it should be how you think about things, not... shouldn't go off on its own and do something different, right? But it should give you better, it should help. You can say, okay, incorporate someone else's approach into my way of thinking. But as I said, when it comes to the world of AI, you own the decisions that the AI makes, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's a healthy way of looking at things. Now, that brings us to perhaps the last and most open-ended topic of the day, which is what's next. So you've seen... we discussed this earlier in the first question, is you've seen different upheavals in the industry, and we are kind of sort of in the middle of one right now. So as you plan the next 3 to 5 years for ViewTrade, what are the key impact drivers that you see within the industry, and what are the things that ViewTrade is focusing on moving forward?
I think we've covered a lot of it. I mean, for us, it's just bringing more and more asset types. I won't even say asset classes, asset types to the market, to the clients, the end customers. I guess if you were to say, prediction markets and the way they're being done and structured is fascinating to me.
Okay.
It's just another way of looking at the world, right? And so, people have an intuitive sense sometimes how something should or shouldn't go, right? And today you can buy a stock and you're making a directional bet, right? It's going to go up, or if you're short, you're going to... Prediction markets takes that view and applies it to everything, right? I mean, every single thing. So prediction markets are quite exciting to me because it goes well beyond the world of finance, right? It's finance in the sense you're making a decision here to some directional, something's going to happen.
Right.
Two-sided though, right? Just like in some cases, I won't go into, there's certain securities that allow you two-sided. You can make money if it happens, but you could also make money by making a bet that it won't happen.
Right.
Well, prediction markets is exactly that, right? It gives you a two-sided way. It's not just I have to be right in direction. Here I can simply say, I don't think that's going to happen. I can make money. So I think it's very fascinating, prediction markets, and how that's going to evolve and how regulations are going to be constructed around that. As I said, we talked about that. Stable coins and the tokenization of securities is going to be very interesting from how that increases or reduces the and makes the burdens involved in moving money involved. Because remember, when you're doing investing, there's two things you have to move. You have to buy the security, then you got to move the money.
Right.
And those are on two different rails, right? The banking industry handles the money. Securities is through the brokerage rails.
Right.
Those don't, they're different, right? So tokenization lets you put those two things together in a sense and eliminate the friction that exists in that context.
Got it.
But overall, to me, as I said, I've been looking at innovation for 40 years, 45 years now. It's just another day. It's exciting. It's great. I can't tell you everything that's going to happen in the next 5 years. Let it come, right? We love it, right? As long as you're prepared for it and you don't treat that as something to be worried about, scared about, overwhelmed by. If those kinds of innovations happen because there's demand, and our job is to deliver what clients want, the demand, provide the supply to meet that demand. That's what we do as a firm.
That's a great way of putting things. And I think there's been a lot of talk about just panic in general about, hey, where things are going, how things pan out.
Things tend to work out. I mean, again, I see the nice part about being in this business for as long as I have is I can look back at all the things that when I was younger would panic me, or I'd be nervous, or how are we going to do this, or oh my God, and see how it turned out. Okay, so I know it works out. I know it's going to work out. It's just when. And I say this to my team, just be persistent.
Right.
Don't panic. Don't, there's a tendency for everyone to want everything right now.
Right.
No, things will evolve in the time they're supposed to evolve.
Right.
Just let it play out, but you got to be active. That's the other thing I always tell my team is, don't spend all this time thinking and planning. Start doing, and then you'll find the path to the solution. So you have the solution. You got to find your path to there. You don't find it by simply studying it. You have to engage it. And you always, once you engage, things start coming together and you'll get to that solution. That's the approach I take. So as I say, bring it on. Happy to do it. We know how to do this. We know how to innovate. We know how to deliver a good result. And you don't have to be the first, but you can't simply study something forever. You've got to actually engage and see if clients saying they're interested in this, take a look at how you can give it to them by doing things. And you never know you'll never know what ends up happening, but I know from experience that the right result inevitably finds its way.
Yeah, I could not have thought of a better way to end this conversation. It has been a pleasure learning more about your journey, and now I leave with a deeper appreciation for all the complexity that ViewTrade and companies like ViewTrade they sort of abstract away from us end consumers. So I appreciate you giving me a peek behind that curtain.
It's my pleasure.
And just your approach to the world of finance, your approach to leadership is, there's a lot that I take away. So I thank you for your time. I look forward to having many more conversations with you on camera, off camera. And
my pleasure.
I hope to see you more.
I learn every day too from people like you and the people engaged in this industry. So it's a two-way relationship.
Very kind of you, and I hope to see you in Bangkok more often.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
So thank you, Tony. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. If you guys like the episode, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.